Hey, welcome everybody to the Soul of Synth-Pop Spotlight Series. And I am your host, Jim Kilgard. That's right, Jim with two M's, one, two, count 'em, baby. That is moi. Thank you so much for joining us today. And May, we have got an amazing episode going on tonight. And of course, speaking of May, please allow me to introduce my absolutely awesome and beautiful co-host, May de Agua. How are you doing, May?
I'm doing pretty good, Jim. Just enjoying, early summer here in South Texas and just enjoying being outside. And I have baby monarch caterpillars on my plants and everything. So things are going well right now.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, folks, I have been waiting a long time to get these two gentlemen here in the virtual taco bar, I guess we could call it. But today we've got the absolutely fantastic Canadian synth pop duo known as Breathe of My Leaves. And you folks know how much I love my Team Canada synth pop artists. And these guys are right there at the top of the list for me. Breathe of My Leaves. So a very big welcome to Mr. Stephano Barberis and the man, the myth, the Jason Momoa lookalike, Jordan Gant, or J Rock, as we're calling him tonight. Jordan, Stephano, how are you guys doing?
Good. Good.
Very, very good. Always a pleasure to be here with you.
Right on. And it's a pleasure to have you guys here. And of course, it's kind of apropos that we have a spotlight going on for you guys when you've got a fairly brand new release, which is a absolutely brilliant little EP called Godzilla, which happens to be, if I'm not mistaken, the final single from your award-winning, and I can say award-winning because I'm one of the people that gave you the award.
Yeah.
The
Thank you.
album of the year. Thank you very much for these wonderful gentlemen. The Radiant Believers, and so Godzilla is represents the final release, single release from that Radiant Believers album, and we're going to talk about that and a whole bunch of other stuff. So to get started, Stefano, tell us a little bit about how Breathe of My Leaves came about. How did you and Jordan meet, and how did this art machine known as BOML get off the ground?
Wow. But it was really very nebulous. Like it started because I'm a director and I direct music videos for major labels and indie label artists. And I believe I contacted Jordan when he was in another duo because I heard a song. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jordan, because this story is so old. It's like old as the hills, so I could be wrong in some things, but I believe I contacted them because I couldn't believe how good the song sounded. I thought it was firstly I thought it was Coldplay's new single, and I thought, oh, and then I found out they're Canadian, and then I was in love with Jordan's voice, and I've always said this. Jordan has my top 5 male vocal on the planet. Like I'm a huge fan of Jordan's, even before we even started working together. So when I discovered this band, they were a duo. I contacted them, and I rarely do that. I usually have my agent bring something to me, or the labels contact me. But I contacted them, and I believe it was Jordan, or was it Chris? I can't remember who got the first contact out of you two, but I remember we hit it off really well, and we just everything I wrote for the video didn't get a grant, unfortunately, so we didn't end up doing the video. But their band didn't also go any further than Las Vegas or LA either. So they were kind of nothing worked out in that sense. But I remember we started chatting back and forth, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting along with this guy. He's like a friend that I haven't met, but I've known for like all my life. So we started chatting, and then I was also playing on with music. Obviously, I was making electronic music, but I was kind of ashamed of it before because I felt like a breaking down robot kind of sound all the time. So I just like melody and playing around. I sent him some tracks, and he's like, "This is great," and I thought, "This is so embarrassing." Like he's just being really nice to me, and he actually sent me. He surprised me. He sent me these files, and I'm like, "What's this?" And my song starts, and I hear him singing to it. And the melodies he was making were almost like they were created together, like they were meant to be together. And I was so ashamed at how bad my music was in comparison to his vocal. that I kept burying under the carpet. And he kept sending me video of him singing to the songs, and I released an instrumental album, and I didn't put his vocals on it because I was too ashamed that the music wasn't as good as the vocal. And then finally I said, screw that. I'm gonna rejig one of the songs. It was a song called Gone from my first album, and he sang to it. And I kind of wrapped it around with a more muscular sound. I'm like, if I'm gonna work with this kind of a vocal, I gotta, like, pull my socks up kind of thing. So I did it, and then I'm like, this sounds really good. We sound good together. But I was still ashamed of it because I'm like, am I good enough? And then I remember him saying, Stefano, this was like 2014 or something, like a few years after we met. The song was just sitting there for years. He goes, Stefano, I think you should release this. I remember him saying that. I'm like, yeah, maybe I should. So I started wrapping around. I started making up peripheral songs around it, and I released the second album called Chimera, and that was the jewel of that album, and it did well. And it, because of Jordan, I think everything started taking off. And again, nebulous slowly. And then I started working on I'm trying to make a long story a lot shorter, but I started working on the third album, which was this current album. And I didn't know Jordan was going to be interested in it. So what I was doing was, because my mom was very ill at the time, and I lost both my parents during the making of this album. So I thought I would get phone, because I live about an 8-minute drive from my parents' house. And I would get phone calls at 3, 4, 5 in the morning from my dad going, your mom fell down. I can't pick her up. Please come. And I would rush out. I would wake up out of bed and rush driving to my parents' house. And this would happen so often that I started staying up all night. And I started just going, well, I'm going to make music. I'm just going to make songs that make me happy, like just to lift my spirits, because I was so anxious about getting these phone calls in the middle of the night. And my brother lives a little further away. So I'm obviously the obvious choice to go and drive out there all the time to help. My brother was like twice or two times further away. So I would just stay up making music, and I was kind of creating lullabies for myself. And I was trying to lift my spirits up with these songs. And I would write these really oddly happy songs, but with a dark vibe, like an uplifting darkness. Like there's some sort of foreboding darkness in the back, but they were still uplifting. They weren't cheesy happy. And I'd be like, this is making me happy. And I would start like dancing in my basement with my cats. And thankfully, Krista is like 2 floors up, and she wouldn't wake up. So I was like dancing and happy. And then I would send these like in the morning. Jordan was probably like sleeping, and I would send them to him. And then I would even like, I started getting into this role where I would start doing about 4 tracks at a time, four songs per week. And there were all these like super happy but darkly uplifting songs. And I would even send them, I would tell like my friend Darwin McDee, I would be like, Darren, I wrote another one. And he's like, oh my God, I wrote another one. It's like, so all these things, I would send them to Jordan, and Jordan's like, dude, this is so good. And I thought he was only going to work on one. I thought it was going to be Sweet Music Man, and then it was going to be the same thing, instrumentals. And then he just did more and more and more. And then I'm like, okay, then I'll have 4 songs with Jordan's great vocals on it. And the rest will be, those will be the 4 singles, and then the rest will be instrumentals. And then we just started going, like, we work so well together that he feeds off what I give him, and then I feed off what he gives me back. And we kind of do this ping pong where we're trying to like show each other up almost, like, and he's always impressing me, and I was apparently, inspiring him. So it just turned into the full album. And then at one point I thought, oh, it'll be 2 instrumentals. It'll be the beginning and the end. And then he even did vocals for those. And I think Megalith was going to be the only one. And Megalith was like, he did vocals for that. And I'm like, no, it's going to be a complete vocal album. And everything was like magic. And we kept releasing singles. And I kind of accidentally ticked off the thing by releasing the first single way too early. So every 2 months we had to have a single out. And we were like obsessed, and we were just making music nonstop and trying to finish this album. So we had 10 singles now with Godzilla, and Godzilla was actually supposed to be the single after Sweet Music. We were about to pull the trigger, and then we went Supernova Heart, just because I was really thinking we needed that kind of vibe to it. But yeah, so that's how it was. So nebulous. It started off with this kind of like freak email to this band that I really liked. And then friendship developed where we talk on the phone for hours. And then it developed into working together on one song, developed into working together on all the songs. And now we're here as a band. So it's just, and I feel like a kid in a toy store working with Jordan because I'm torn between being a fanboy of his voice when I get it and being this crazy, it turns me into a creative monster. I'm like, oh, we'll do this here and we'll layer your voice here, and I'll take this part and I'll actually put it underneath the chorus, and you'll be doing these doo-wop things under the chorus. And he sends me more of those, and he sends me like chamber vocals. Like there's like 30 tracks of vocals, and I don't know what, I'm so excited. I don't know what to do with them. And then it just makes me keep building. So it's become the most happiest creative project of my life. It's insane. So he gives me so much joy. It's just bizarre. Yeah, so really happy.
That's awesome. And Jordan, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that you kind of got your start in all of this coming from a rather musical family, if I remember correctly. Is that right?
Yeah, my mom released a couple gospel records back in the day. She was in a band called New Dawn, and I grew up in the church, if you will. So a lot of the stuff that Stefano and I do on these tracks, it just naturally comes to me in terms of, I don't know, harmonies, like being a church dweller or not, it doesn't matter, but like there's always that choir piece. And so growing up listening to that, I always would listen to at least four-part harmonies with music growing up as a child.
Nice.
And it stuck with me. Why I enjoy it so much with Stefano is because he lays down such a very simple um, track to start with. And then when we start building it to whatever stratosphere he wants to take it to, I'll just keep doing 30, 40, 50 vocals on top of it. And then he's like, okay, that's enough. We're good. We're done. And that's, so yeah, I definitely came and grew up in that environment of harmony, background vocals, the doo-wop, um, not necessarily like the Beach Boys, but just all that type of stuff that was very intentionally harmonic. And that's why I love it so much, because we can have a simple synth line just going straight through a verse, and I'll do 7, 8 parts on top of it and mix it around, and I'll automate some of them, or I'll really quantize some of them. And when we started the album, not to go on a tangent, but like when we started off, I told Stefano, like, we're not gonna polish this album. Like, when you listen to it, it's me. And when you listen to Stefano, it's him. There's a little bit of autotune here and there when I intentionally put it in, but the editing is very rough, and we just decided to keep it like that because it just fits for the project that way. So
So it
yeah,
has
a lot
it
of
has a
fun.
bit of a is it a fair assessment to say you took more of a, for want of a better word, an organic type of approach to recording this album in that sense?
I think so. I think for my background musically, this was such a different genre change for me that I wanted to respectfully kind of pay homage to the people that really influenced Stefano. However, I wasn't super entwined in that musical culture at the time. And so I would specifically not listen to certain artists because I didn't want to potentially get influenced and then make it sound like that or whatnot. But yeah, like, yeah, the influence for me for sure. I kind of forgot what you asked. I'm sorry, but it's yeah, tell me again. Sorry.
So it,
Organic.
it just it just it just seems
Organic. Yeah,
to,
yeah, no, for sure.
yeah,
Sorry. Yeah. It's
organic, and how your vocal takes were maybe a little more raw instead of applying pitch correction or auto tune, except for the specific times that you wanted to apply
exactly.
auto tune
Yeah.
kind of type thing. So that to me, being a producer myself, it's more of a organic approach as opposed to what I will do, because I'm not a great dynamic singer like you are, so I have to polish that turd as much as I can to get it to where it even sounds, passable. So
Yeah.
um, I think the results are outstanding, and it seems to fit. And may tell me if you agree on this. Just in listening to the tracks from the Radiant Believers, it sounds like it has that little bit of an organic feel to it. I mean, obviously, synth pop is very has a tendency to be mechanical, robotic by nature. That's not to say that it can't be emotive and, very dynamic, but there is definitely, I think, a bit of an organic type quality to it. What do you think, May?
I think there's definitely that organic in the sense that even though you're looking at an electronic instrument, there is still like Stefano said, there's this joy with this darkness. There is a lot of feeling in that. It's not, necessarily robotic, but then I can't say that most synth music is robotic anyways, because most of the people that play it, I can tell they're very heartfelt. And I think that Jordan's voice there's such a purity about it. And, there's so much feeling in there. And one of the things that really struck me that Stefano said about the joy and the darkness, what thing really struck me is a lot of people misquote, if you've ever read Neil Gaiman's Coraline, at the beginning of the book, there is a quote, he's paraphrasing a different author. A lot of people often accidentally credit Neil Gaiman with it, but it was really G.K. Chesterton who said, fairy tales are more than true, not because they tell us that dragons exist, but because they tell us that dragons can be beaten. And so that's where my head went when you were talking about that. And that book, as a matter of fact, it's a short book, it's a kid's book, but I started it in bed and I had to finish that book. I could not go to sleep until I finished it because that book is actually kind of scary. And I had to know that the dragon would be beaten, that she would win and overcome this darkness that she was going through. And so I think that we have to accept that there is darkness with light. And don't believe any one person who appears outwardly to be constantly happy and positive, because part of the reason is not necessarily ignorance, but those of us who have gone through dark things, we have gotten through that, and we are projecting now that triumph, that joy that I hear in this album. And just because I'm always positive doesn't mean I haven't been dark places. But that's what I see a lot in this album. So much joy and triumph. Again, I like that word.
I think one thing that I tried doing is I use really old software on purpose, because I did switch over to Logic and everything Apple because I'm an Apple boy, but I don't use Apple for the music. I want to be challenged. Everything that you hear on Radiant Believers is chopped up, flipped around, stretched, like chopped. If people saw what I go through, and what the time, like Jordan can't believe it.
It's binary. It's
I literally, the
binary.
melodies are literally handcrafted, and the imperfections, I actually use the imperfections to create the melody a lot of times. And I don't want to polish, because that's what I think it's very digital, but it's very analog in a weird way, because I'm using the imperfections when you stretch something, and you can't do that with Apple. Like Apple polishes everything for you. And I started going, I sound like every other band, and we would sound like the Chainsmokers or Diplo or some really polished, cool thing. And I don't want to sound like that ever. I want, and even with Jordan, when I started working a lot with his vocal is so human. It's the opposite of our kind of music that I've grown up with. I grew up with Vince Clarke and Andy Bell, and it was, those kinds of kind of like super yin and yang, but they're still smooth.
Right.
But then I meet Jordan, and I tried kind of turning Jordan into a bit of a, I don't know, an Andy at first. But Jordan is not an Andy. Like Jordan is a prog metal singer, a gospel singer. And then it took me a while. It took me till about over halfway of this album to just go, oh my God, this is something new that it hasn't happened before. Like I think when all those old bands were doing things like mixing like Vince Clarke with a soul singer, and they were probably going, I want something more droning. But then they go, no, this is incredible. It's new. Like, and that's why it just struck me with Jordan. I'm like, I'm gonna accept Jordan's vocal. It's incredible. I'm not gonna try getting rid of the growl. I'm gonna, I love everything he gives me now. Sometimes it's a smooth thing, sometimes it's a growl thing, it's whatever we're feeling. And then if he does something, I try to counter it. Like May was saying, like with the darkness and the light, like when we were working on All the Memories Made, we wanted to make a keen, like Jordan was bent on this is keen. Like I'll even give you the synth pad because I don't really do synth pads that much. Like, and Jordan was keen on the synth pad. Like, so I used his pad and I could not wrap my head around that song, and I almost quit on that song because Jordan was like, almost like Jordan was like, "What can't you understand about this?" And I was like, "I'm trying." But he was going really dark, and then I was trying to I find myself trying to do this uplifting thing, and when he gave me the vocal track, I heard the lyrics, and I remember calling him up, going, "Jordan, are you okay?" Because I was so upset when I heard the lyrics. I'm like, are you all right? Because they're very sad and heart-wrenching, and I wasn't used to that from all our music. Like, so I remember finally I wrapped my head around it, and I remember him sending me a video of him going D D, and he was pressing the D on the piano. I'm like, no, but that's not what I'm trying to do there. But it was like it was such a hard, like it was really tearing me apart. I thought I failed miserably. So then I kind of grasped it and I said, okay, we'll go with the darkness on it. But then when the bridge comes in, I did this really happy kind of like popcorn M&H band type of uplifting thing. And I said, Jordan, I've got to just add this in because I think it's going to create a good contrast. And then he goes, this sounds cool. And then he goes, if we're doing this live, this is where we dance, right? And I said, yes, Jordan, this is where we dance. Like he totally got it. It was like such an innocent way of kind of putting it. Like, this is where we dance, right? Like, exactly. Like, this is where it turns happy. And then it was going to end on him doing the a cappella. And it was never an a cappella. Like, we were going to have like still kind of a pad on it. And I'm like, no, your vocal is so good. It was going to end on this a cappella, but then it was still kind of like, I still want to do something. So I turn it into a remix of itself, and it goes into this big kind of Euro techno arpeggiating Teutonic thing with an 80s, big 80s fade. So it kind of worked out, but that was the one where we were kind of wrestling. Like, I'm kind of this weird, we're kind of this weird thing where we're both these metal objects that aren't supposed to bend, but we somehow twist around each other and create like artworks. And this was the first time where I'm like, I don't know if I can bend anymore. I don't know where to take this song. And for the life of me, I did not like the song for so long. I was like, and then it ended up being a single. And now when I listen to the album, I remember sending Jordan, was it last week? I said,
Yeah.
Jordan, is this our best song? So it's weird how it just grew on me. But it was such a heart-wrenching thing to mix that dark with the light and to kind of embrace. You don't have to make everything cheesy happy, obviously, and I don't ever want to do that. I'm not that guy, and I don't. Jordan's not that guy. We're never going to make a cheesy, unless we purposely do it all, just to kind of make a joke out of it. But that's the one place where when May was talking about the dark and the light, that one almost overtook me, and I even told Jordan I was going to quit. I was going to like go. That's it. I can't do this. Like, this is where this album is. Either I was going to quit the song, or I was going to say our album is done here, and we got to start going in a different direction. Maybe you can inform me on what kind of direction. I was so upset with myself. It wasn't Jordan. I felt like I couldn't live up because Jordan is a muso. He's like he plays every instrument. He's a producer. He's a mixer. He's a lyricist. He's a background vocalist for a lot of label bands in Canada. So, and I'm this like, I feel like a total loser that just kind of sits at his Hewlett Packard laptop and creates like these robotic sounds. And I'm like, how is he still working with me? I cannot wrap my head around this one. Like, so I kept trying these different like techniques, and I kept trying to like challenge myself. And I guess whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So I learned a lot from that. And it kind of informed the rest of the album. And I think the album really benefited from that challenging, like there's a focus, like a locus of the album. and it bent there. And then that's when it kind of informed me about everything else. And Trepidation happened after that, and all these huge Perfect Defeat happened after that, and all these crazy great moments. I think like Trepidation is a high point for us, but things like that happened, and yeah, so that's kind of cool. And the way we just kind of connect on those things, like when I did Supernova Heart, when I did the demo for that, I remember it's very similar to the final product. And I thought to myself, this is so grandiose. It's about God. Like it's about God, it has to be. It's so big. I didn't tell Jordan that. He came back with me as a surprise with Terea on it. And I was in tears. I was so happy. And he goes, you know what? We made this song about God. I'm like he actually fed off it. He knew just from the sound. So the connection with us working creatively has become so intuitive and almost like on a different level. So that's why yeah, I'm just really excited about the next project. And we're about 7 or 8 tracks into it. And we're about 4 tracks into this project before it that's coming up. But I'm just so excited working with them, and this dark and light thing seems to have been the theme for everything. So yeah. Sorry.
Well, again, we're all the richer for that synergy that the two of you have with combining the two styles that you have, and it's kind of nice to know that Stefano, like me, you come from a classical synth pop background. The 5 pillars, as it were. And for me, those 5 pillars, in no specific order, would be like OMD, Erasure, Depeche Mode, Pet Shop Boys, and um, the my 5th one would probably well,
Human,
who?
Human League, maybe?
Not so much Human League. I'd say
Howard Jones. Did you already say Howard
Oh,
Jones?
Howard
I'd,
Jones.
I'd say Kraftwerk. Kraftwerk would
Yeah.
be
Okay.
Kraftwerk would be my foundation, because that's where the journey began for me, was Kraftwerk. But to see that you, like me, have that classical synth pop influence, and then Jordan has something that is about as far away as you can get
Yeah.
from synth pop. And I think that's actually one of the secret formulas that allows you guys to succeed as well as you do, because you are from completely different schools of thought, as it were, in regards to musical influence. So Jordan, let's talk a little bit about that. Who were some of the artists specifically that really kind of got you going? Artists that maybe today that you still lean on for moments of inspiration and whatnot.
Yeah, I had done an interview, I think it was 3 or so months ago on this, and it was funny because they weren't expecting me to come in and introduce the music that I wanted to share with them. Simply put, my favorite singer of all time is Miles Kennedy. He's the lead singer of Alter Bridge. He does a lot of solo stuff. He's kind of my go-to. Daniel Johns is a huge influence for me as well. He's the lead singer for Silverchair. Growing up, like, man, like I grew up with everyone trying to sound the biggest that they could possibly be, vocally being the biggest. And so I even grew up with like Dino and uh, man, I like Phantom of the Opera. I played that disc until it literally died in my Walkman because I just loved that. The Phantom of the Opera was like everything about it was just so huge.
Mhm.
So in terms of like my top 3 or 4, if you'd say, yeah, it would be Miles Kennedy, it would be Daniel Johns. I love Radiohead. Um, and then my other influences just get really heavy. So like I am so into Slipknot, and I'm obsessed with a band called Sleep Token. Stefano and I talk about that all the time, and he's like, I don't get it. I'm like, what don't you see? Like it's so
Oh no,
unbelievable.
I get Slipknot. I get Sleep Token. Where's the
Yeah,
other one? Yeah. Sleep
yeah.
Token's pretty cool.
Sleep Token. It's just I enjoy watching these bands that kind of create a theme around their music, or they'll wear their masks, or they'll have their persona on stage. And I think that's why we work really well together too, because of like, well, Stefano can talk about this when we get into talking about Godzilla, but like it's so huge and thematic. It scared the crap out of me for a year. I'm like, I'm not going to write this song. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to piss off millions of people. Just in the back of my head, I thought I wouldn't be able to do that. And then I think we pulled it off. Like it's unique.
It took
So
9 months. Yeah.
yeah, it took almost a
Because you're
year.
so scared.
Well, because yeah, I had to also do my research. And when you really want to do something, you really want to pay tribute to something properly, you understand that there's so many different perspectives or so many different viewpoints on what that character is. But back to what you said, Jim, like, yeah, so vocally for me, it's, I don't know. Yeah, it's just big operatic influences for me.
That's
I
why
love,
we get along so well.
yeah,
Because I like big music, and he's a
love, yeah.
and big
And
metal.
like, yeah, big metal, or even going back to like, 70s, like Queen, like
Nice.
like it's just anything that the vocalist just, when I watched, I'm like, I wish I was there live to see that. Aerosmith, gosh, like just all that there was a thin line of gold that happened through that whole genre, that whole kind of area of like the 80s and late 70s, and I love that.
Did,
So
are you a Queensryche fan by chance? Like Jeff
yep.
Tate?
Yep. Oh
Yeah,
yeah. Yep.
he's absolutely one of my favorite metal slash rock singers, Jeff Tate. Just every time I hear Silent Lucidity, I still, just the hair stands up, and it's one of my there are some songs that whenever they come on, it will instantly put me in another dimension. It's like it stops me dead in my tracks, and just chills me to the bone in a good way. And Silent Lucidity is like one of
Yep.
those songs for me. What's one of the songs that does that for you? Any
Yeah.
genre, any genre.
There's a song called Wonderful Life from Alter Bridge. I actually can't listen to that song and not cry. Um, and it'll be my funeral song. It's just that tune to me just has and it's nothing special. There's really nothing special about that tune, but it just, tonality wise, how he sings it, just the fact that the band is playing, they're not too aggressive. It's just a big soaring type of tune. I'd say that for sure. Man, like Meatloaf, do anything that I wouldn't do that. Like I like there's so many tunes that I would listen to that would take me in different stratospheres. Definitely old, like newer Silverchair, newer Daniel Johns blows my mind. He's just crazy talented.
But
Um,
Jordan,
yeah.
your voice reminds me of Chris Cornell, my favorite rock
Yeah.
vocalist.
Oh my gosh.
So
Black Hole
did you
Sun's
listen
another
to?
one that
Oh,
just
yeah.
whoo,
Black Hole Sun,
goosebumps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Black Hole Sun, even Cornell playing in the Audio Slave
Oh,
band
crazy, yeah.
for his last
Yeah.
years there, like, yeah, I don't know. The people that influence me are the ones that I'm like just glued to on YouTube. I'm watching them perform. And I think more than their voice, I'm just in awe of their persona. I'm in awe of how they use the stage. I'm in awe of how they make the entire crowd like sit down and be quiet. Right. And then when I say jump, we're gonna jump. Like
That's right.
that type of power is more powerful to me than their voice. So I'd say more than the vocal, it's the performers. Yeah, like
Yeah. Well,
you know,
Freddie Mercury to
yeah,
me.
yeah, Freddie Mercury. Like, yeah, it's like you can't even like that's where Stefano and I were talking about this the other day, like trying to cover specific tunes by specific bands that are so iconic. It's like it's already been done. Let's not even try to do that. Let's just rework something completely and make it our own, because our genre, I don't want to say our genre, but our style is definitely unique like that. Because Stefano sent me tunes and I've honestly never heard them ever. And he's like,
Shocking.
never heard of this song? I'm like, I've never heard of this band. He's like, are you kidding me? This is one of the most iconic bands of the 80s. I'm like, okay. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. For me, yeah, the top
Yeah.
singers performing. I
But
that when they can do what they can do on an album on a stage in front of me and blow me away, I don't care what genre it is. That's what I always have strived for too. And that's when we were touching on the anti editing, if you will, in this album. It's the same thing. Like if we ever play a show like that, like you're that's what I sound like. And that's what Stephano sounds like. And we're not cheating. It's very easy to cheat. Very easy to just auto tune everything, quantize it, throw it in Melodyne. Like I do that all the time with other bands that I work with, and it's just like they're not going to be able to do that live, and our stuff is literally live. Like Stefano can touch on this too. Like there's some of the tunes on that album I recorded through the microphone on the laptop.
Godzilla.
Godzilla, yeah, the vocal, right?
Yeah, so it's like
I don't think they know the story about that, Jordan. I think I told Jim, I think in May, but I don't know if people
and
know.
yeah, you can touch on it if you want, but like literally the Radiant Believers was built on like $300.
Wow.
We didn't go to a studio.
No.
I was sitting
on your end. I don't think I spent a penny other than mastering.
other than mastering. Yeah, mastering, of course. But everything else we did, I was sitting on my basement floor, or I'd be up in my room, or I'd just be singing into the mic, or like the only other microphone that I use on the entire other album, if anyone's really interested, is I just use an SM7B straight into a Sennheiser like $100 whatever they're called, like converter into my computer. That's it.
Though you do also like, I also, I think you forgot to say this probably, but I want to remind people, he also likes people like George Michael and Mika, right? And Robin, he surprised me with he likes Robin, the pop female vocalist.
Yeah.
So he does like kind of draw from those things too, which is, I find so interesting that his background is so like what he's talking about, which is kind of alien to me. Not all of it, but some of it is like, because I come, like when I was a kid, I listened to ELO. My parents would blast ELO and ABBA.
Love ELO. Oh my
like
God.
You can't beat that kind of, like all that stuff from the 70s. And I was also into like Vivaldi and Handel classical stuff. So, but when and Motown and like 50s and 60s pop and Beatles and stuff. But I think he also does draw from these kind of really cool, because I'm always like trying to get into his brain, like where did this come from? Like when I hear a vocal come from him, and sometimes I hear he's like, yeah, this is totally George Michael. I'm like, I didn't know you kind of drew from that kind of stuff.
Oh,
so it's kind of cool.
Huge George Michael fan.
And Keen.
The funny thing, Keen, huge, yeah, we talked about that last time. Huge Keen fan. Keen to me, they annoy me because their songs are like these perfect pop songs, and it's just like, okay, you mastered it.
We both
even George Michael, any of those bands, it goes right back to how do I see them on stage. You can go into very different weird veins with the music too, because funny enough, and I'll admit this, you guys can laugh at me all you want. The first time that I was introduced to George Michael was Limp Bizkit.
With
It covered Faith.
Faith, yeah.
Oh,
like I was like, this is a great tune, but it's a horrible, like, just it's got to be better than this. And then I heard the original version, and then it was then I was like, oh my goodness, George Michael's, and I went down the rabbit hole with his stuff. But I've learned, and I've been introduced to this music in such different ways, because I didn't grow up listening to ELO or Erasure or like Depeche Mode or like any of them, and now for me it's been such an interesting reveal. To me, I go like, oh man, like that's why you were saying I should listen to this song based on the one we did, but I wouldn't listen to it until it was done, and I'd just make sure that it was just my influence alone into our music, if that makes sense.
Oddly, he does background vocals, kind of like all the people I grew up with in the 80s. Like I hear these little kind of like counter melodies he's creating, and I'm like, that's exactly like the band I grew up with. Like all these bands. Like, so he kind of, it's in there somewhere. That's why I'm always trying to pick his brain. Like, that you just did this, and this is exactly what I wanted there, because So it's weird because I don't know. It's just a very strange thing for me to like. I scientifically like tried like looking into his brain and go, that is perfection. Like, how did you think of that? Because that's what I would have begged you to do there, and you actually did it without me even saying anything. So I don't know if the music is kind of like prompting it sometimes, and I don't know what it is, but it's just it's
Well, I like,
pretty
you
cool.
know, it's like you guys would have to come and do like a live off the floor version and record us when we're creating these things, because literally Stefano will send me a song and it's just and that's it. And I'm like,
How was
and
that B-side that there's Star-Crossed? Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so trepidation. Oh, okay. And it's just like, then all of a sudden I send it back to him, and then he like, what always happens is he'll send me something and he always goes, I don't know, man. I don't know if I like, and I'll sing something and then he will obsess over it for like 3 or 4 days and just send me something back that's 8,000 times more aggressive. And then I go more aggressive and then I send it back to him. And then he's like, oh, really? You did that? I'm going to do a drop here. I'm like, you're going to do a drop there? I'm going to scream here. Like,
Well, actually, Trepidation
yeah.
was the first song that I had completed, and it was actually quite a lot more intense. Like that one was pretty intensely built before, but then he started doing these things in it that just made me catch fire. Yeah, like all these, and then sometimes he'll take like little synth sounds I put in, and he'll emulate them with his voice, and I'm like, screw the synth, like take that out, and we'll just use his voice doing those sounds. Like he's got this really cool way of knowing where to put the vocal and what to do. So yeah, even and Godzilla, when I did that song, I remember that wrote itself. Like, and I couldn't believe I came up with that synth line the way it is now. The chorus, that catchy little synth thing, the lead synth, is how it was in the original. And I remember being so, I was dancing in my basement. I go, this just kind of came off my fingertips. And then in the morning, I sent it to Jordan, and I still remember his vocal. He said, "Dude, this is so colorful." That's what he said, and I'm like, "Oh, good, he likes it." It took him 9 months because he was terrified because he knew how much of a fan I was of Godzilla. But I kind of forced him. I said, I need this now because we have to do this then. So this is the deadline. I need it now." So he was in the river with his dog, and he caught a lung infection, and he didn't have the use of a mic that on the deadline week. So he, with a lung infection, he sings into the laptop's little hole,
It's that little hole, yeah.
microphone, and he sends me those. And I was like, I was so happy because he sends it. I was sitting upstairs watching TV with Krista, and then I get this text or email that says tree planter song because it was an environmental theme. So he was being all facetious with it. So I was like, tree, and he goes, I got the kid choir. And I said, what? What are you talking about? You got a kid choir? And I run downstairs because whenever he sends me a vocal file, it's like Christmas time for me. Like I'm in my basement. This time I was in tears. I I couldn't believe how Godzilla came out because I could not listen to it with anyone around. It would always be in my vehicle bawling. Like I was so ecstatic with how that came out. And with his vocal, even the deep vocal he's chanting, he calls it hitting his Adam's apple. There's no effect on it. It's because of the lung infection from the river, whatever river bug he caught with his dog. And singing it into the laptop, usually we'd be like, okay, these will be the temporary vocals, and then I'll go nuts with the song and build and add more layers, and then you come back with the real vocal. I'm like, no, 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 we're sticking with this vocal. And I think even to like the last minute, he's like, are you sure you don't want me to record this? I'm like, no, it's monstrous. It sounds perfect. And I don't know if people know. I think people, when I gave it to be remixed, I think Jim, I remember when I gave it to you to remix on Secret Space Program, the incredible mix you did. I remember telling all the remixers, sending them an apology note saying, I'm really sorry. We recorded this straight into the box with a vocal, like, and I'm trying to get rid of the piece by literally carving them of the out of the track. Like I was putting B's where his peas would pop because it's a vocal going into a laptop. Like it's not even nothing was true. So I'm going through his vocal and seeing where everything's popping, and I'm literally cutting into that to make sure that things don't, and it wasn't completely perfect either. So, but I love the imperfection of his vocals in there, and it sounded like it should. There's something weird about it. It's not polished at all, but it sounded like what a Godzilla song should sound like. And then with the single mix that we just released now, I just went a little crazier with it. I added a bass line, really monstrous, bouncy kind of bass line, and I added just more stuff, bells and whistles. But it seems to work, and May picked up on it, right? I think May has a way of like really crystallizing my thoughts in music. Like I don't know what you said. You said you turned it from something to chiffon. It was was it a moose to a chiffon? Like I can't remember it was like the most perfect. I'm like, oh yeah, it's a little bit smoother. I took the bounce out of I made more of a contrast between the verse and the chorus. So I kind of brought down the verses, and now it goes into this big burst into the choruses. But I can't remember what you used, but the words, I'm like, that's exactly what happened.
I feel like the chiffon reference might have been from me writing about the Radiant Believers, because the layers of chiffon, maybe. I think, but yeah, for this one, the single mix, it was punchier, it was bigger, and it was I think maybe I did, because I feel like first I had to tell people that there's something wrong with the reticular activating system of the hypothalamus of my brain. I don't filter out all the external stimuli that normal human beings should filter out.
English, May. English. Put it into English.
Oh, I understood.
I'm a Reader's
fan. I need a pop-up book.
Here we are with,
I understand
biology
exactly
talk.
what you just said.
But what it means is that I don't just hear music, I feel it, I experience it. So every little hook and pop, and I pick these things up. So the first thing I picked up was the xylophone notes. I love those little tiny, I love bells, I don't know. And so, but yeah, there is, if you think of the original as being kind of like a dense tort flourless cake, and then you took the single mix and you aerated it, and so it expanded and became bouncier and punchier, and so yeah, now I'm hungry, and but yeah, I think that hearing that, I think there's a lot of people that really cannot tell the difference between the album version and the single mix, and then heaven forbid there's people that don't understand remixes. It's the same song over and over again, but it's wonderful to hear things like that. I love to hear different people's takes on it. Everybody's remix was so incredibly unique to who they are. And of course, I already am familiar with Jim's style, with Darren's style, Anthony's also. So the other guys were new to me, and I'm like, wow, I'm really picking up these really different, unique. And I went and I looked to see if I could find any of either of their music anywhere. I only found another Res Filter remix for, was that Perfect Defeat?
It was.
And then I found some of can't think of his name. Astrochild. I found some of his. Yeah, I found a couple of things on Spotify, but yeah, I kind of listened to that and I said, okay, this is him. This is his flavor that he's putting in it, and I really liked it.
What's funny is I would get these remixes kind of filtering in to me slowly, and I didn't know what I was gonna get, because with me, I don't tend to go right away like we're just gonna have have a ton of remixes, because really we don't create albums that often. So for us to get airplay and then suddenly they're just playing the remix, like if we're releasing an album every year, I'm thinking, yeah, let's do a lot of remixes, so I'm always kind of hesitant. I'm like, I'm gonna select certain songs that will have remixes that we can take different takes on it. So it's really cool. So I'm always a little bit not hesitant, but like I love making B-sides. I just love writing more music with Jordan. So the B-side, the remixes are always this kind of secret treat for me. So when I believe I got Jim's first with Secret Space Program, And I knew it was going to be good because
Which
it's
is
Jim.
amazing
So
because I'm usually the last guy to turn
Yeah.
on a remix.
and you
Ask
thought
anybody,
you were going to be the last one.
ask anybody who I've done a remix for, they'll be like, yeah, Jim, yesterday would have been nice. So
You're going on Greek time. Yeah, no, it's the remix. So when I put it on, I was so ecstatic because it took me back to my childhood. It took me back to, I remember going to Woolworths with my parents when I was a kid, and I would buy records or whatever. And I remember seeing a soundtrack for all the space movies, like uh, what's that one? Dun, 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 like Close Encounters.
mhm.
All the big space Steven Spielberg space movies of the early 80s and stuff, and it would have all their theme songs. And for some reason, yours took me back to my childhood, prepubescent, listening to these like space kind of like. So you brought this weird, and May, you called it reverie, and it was it nailed it again. Like it so Jim's brought me back to my childhood. It sounded like an old Star Trek. It just brought me into this existential mood, and it was just, you nailed it. So it brought me back to my childhood. I'm like, if this is what the remixes are going to be like, I'm going to be in for a huge treat. And then I got Astro Child, and Astro Child is this cool, I call him a pup because he's like, 12, I don't know, he's like 18. This is a super cool DJ from Vancouver that I was introduced you to because we get played on the same FM station that plays Vancouver indie music once in a while.
Mhm.
And he kind of DJs that. And I've always looked up to him, and I thought he had the coolest sound. So I asked him if he'd remix this track, and he was so gung-ho. And he's got this really cool, young, different take, because I always get worried that if I give the tracks to all of us in our circle, it becomes basically a circle jerk of the same material. Sorry to be rude, but it becomes like the same version of us looking at each other going, hello, all talking together in the same mirror. And I'm like, how do we expand out of this? Like, I wanted to give it to also to somebody to kind of like bring it. I want to give it to a house producer. I want to give it to a trance producer. I want to give it to, I think we should be expanding on that. So I wanted to give it to the stalwarts like us, but I also wanted to give it to people like Astro Child, who are going to be massive. Like, he's so talented. So he did such a great job too, and it took me. He actually played me two versions. One he scrapped, which sounded a lot more along the lines of what we all make, and then he sent me this one, which is like completely like I'd be in the coolest place drinking a martini, and he'd come on. And
I like how his mix kind of stands out for that.
he does,
very reason.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he did that, and I love the guy to death. And night sweetest guy also. And then I got, I think the next one was Zinc Mind, and that blew me away because he used a vocoder, and just like you, Jim, we love
I'm a sucker for vocoder, being a Kraftwerk fan.
Yeah, so
I gotta be
Kraftwerk,
honest.
me too. So Zinc Mind was like this, this could be played as the single too. Like he's so talented.
Yeah,
And
it's a
and
brilliant
everyone,
remix.
and then Res Filter came in, and Res Filter is basically Vince Clarke in San Francisco. He sends me video, right? Jordan, you saw the video of him in his studio. He's got a studio the size of our main floor of analog synthesizers, and he wears a lab coat. He's this cool young guy that is just going psycho on his analog synths, and I'm like, how are these talented people working on art stuff like this? So I knew he was going to be incredible. So he gave me his, and of course it sounds like Vince Clarke. And somebody even asked, "Is this Vince? Are you joking? Like, are you hiding it with a secret pseudonym?" And I said, "I don't know." So it sounds like Vince. And then I got the last one, I believe, was Darren's Darwin McD, and that, of course, just incredible, right? It's his beautiful. I love arpeggiation. Arpeggiation is, what did I call it, Jim? Arpeggiation is brain masturbation. Like I love arpeggiation. It's my
And
favorite.
Darren is the master
Yeah.
of that.
Oh, yeah.
The thing I really like about Darren's mix is something that May actually called out in her review, which is I like how he kind of did his own instrumental interpretation of it, but then really toward the end, really put Jordan's vocal to to kind of like just, drive it home.
Emotional. Yeah.
And that's the best word for it. And I don't know anybody out there that does it as well as my boy
talented.
Darren. So yeah.
Yeah, when
Love Darren.
I listened to them, I went for a drive and I live in Vancouver, outside of Vancouver, but I'm always downtown, whatever my vehicle. And I remember Vancouver in springtime and summertime is just ridiculously incredible. It's like we're so blessed to live here. And the sun, spring, that spring feel, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Vancouver's in the mountains, and there's like the mountains come straight out of the ocean. It's incredible. It's spring, and you're feeling everything's green, and it's cherry blossom time. And I listened to the EP before it was released, before it came out, and it put me in this weird. I have synesthesia, so I taste colors, and words have characters and weird textures.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even Jordan has some of that too, because I remember him telling me this song is green, so you did the right thing. I'm like, but I remember driving around to this song, and it was just this perfect spring city feel, and the sun was going down, and somehow every remixer tapped into the same spring, refreshing vibe of my youth. I remember when I was 21 or 20, thinking I have nothing but time in front of me. And it was almost daunting and scary, but you feel like you can waste so much time. And when it's springtime and you're 20, everything is magic. Like the smells of feel like you're missing out if you're not with your friends, and your friends are everything, and music is everything. And those were the days when you would have to take your legs and take your head to the record store to buy the music. You wouldn't just click on the thing. And
right.
Everything was magic back then. And for some reason, every single remixer tapped into that same springtime young magic for Godzilla. Because I thought people were going to go, here I am trying to make it bombastic, and I throw everything on the kitchen sink. I guess I have a Greek problem. Like, I like drama, and I want to just constantly go higher. And that's what we're trying to do with this next album. I'm trying to strip things away, and it's so hard. Like, I can't quit you melody. Like, I just want to keep putting melodies in there, right? And layers.
Yeah.
But these remixers, all of you, from Jim, you, and everyone, kind of took my synth line. They didn't go over the top. They actually did this to it. Like, they kind of did this gentle, you don't need to ram it in our faces. And I'm like, these are true artists. Like, they actually took me, and if somebody gave me Godzilla and I didn't write that song, I would have said, how can I set a nuclear bomb on it now and turn it even bigger? Like, I just need to keep getting bigger. So I would have not done what everyone else did. Everyone took it kind of, and even Darren did this thing where I'm like, when's it gonna explode? Like, listening, like, oh my God. It doesn't
4
need to
minutes and
explode.
30 seconds.
It's just a tease. It's just a tease.
Yeah, it's a tease. And everyone did this, and even like Astro Child with his, I'm like, it turns into this cool arpeggiation moment close to the end that I think is incredible. But everyone, Zinc, Res Filter, like Jason, like, and you, Jim, like everyone, you brought me back to my childhood, and all these things brought me back to either my childhood or my early 20s, where like time was non-existent, where you think you can waste all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That weird, youthful, fresh thing
Yeah.
where, and then you blink and you're 30, and you blink and you're 40, you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
But like that, before all that fear happens, that's what these remixes. So for me, this was something that I wasn't expecting to be emotionally driven by. I was thinking, I hope they just outdo me and just throw this into this fire pit and make it massive. But you guys all just went artist on me and surprised me in a way that I'm speechless. You did something so special, all of you. And even Jordan, when I was sending them to him, I think he sent me one text 2 days ago saying, I'm crying. So I was like, we were both so moved by everything.
My music tends to make people cry, but not in a good way.
Right, exactly.
You sell yourself. all the
I
time.
don't personally ever listen to the remixes ever until it's all done and released. So Stefano sent it to me. Just my whole life has always been, in terms of my music, I've always been the one wanting to do stuff with people. Like, let me sing on that track with you. Let me play the guitar. Let me be involved. And there's been a lot of no's, which is fine. But then hearing back just 4 or 5 different minds and how they interpreted the tune that we like kind of recorded improperly. I was just I was laying in bed that night and I texted Steph and I was just like, I just feel so honored. Like just hearing them to me was like the first time I'm like, man, these people put time and effort into our song. Like I've never experienced that before. I've heard the other remixes obviously for the other songs, but the stuff that like Jim, what you did on that tune, like I listened to it, like honestly, I just listened over and over and over, and how you articulate the 4 beat, like just things that I noticed that you did was just humbling for me. Yeah. And then the remixes, I never listened to them until they all come out. And then I like just getting that big mash of like everyone's interpretation of it.
Mhm.
And they all work. Like
Yeah.
you couldn't even like some of like I shouldn't say this, but like even if no one heard the original, some of them could have just been the original. Like nothing,
Easily.
yeah, none of these were like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna like, it was just all artistically done.
Mhm.
I was so impressed by the remix of Godzilla from everyone. It just, yeah, I'll stop there. It was
That
just
synth line, the way everyone dealt with the synth line differently. Like Jim, yours just I think I even told you how like it moved I was by yours because it sounded like, oh my God, this is straight from a sci-fi movie. Like it sounded so cinematic, and mine sounds like this kazoo, like sound, and that's So and then everyone else started doing it, and then even like Astrochild did like an arpeggiated version of it
Mhm.
that I never would have thought of doing. And then and Zinc and like Anthony. Uh Everyone just treated it in such a, and even I remember hearing Darren doing it, and his is just so gentle. I'm thinking, oh my God, you don't need to be heavy-handed with everything. Like, like so
Yeah.
I don't know. I was ecstatic. And I to be perfectly honest, I prefer B-sides just because of the selfishness of writing more with Jordan. Like I will take writing with Jordan any day over listening to, like, I just love creating. And I feel like when I give it to other people, I do get joy from it because they give us such magic back. And I'm always going, oh, they outdid us. Like they're going to make it better. Awesome. They'll play it more on the radio stations. Outdo me. I don't care. My pleasure comes from working with Jordan and creating new material. That's why now, like, this stuff is so old to us. Like
Right.
Godzilla is literally 2 years old for us. And we have been writing nonstop on other things, and it's sounding so incredible. There's a song that I keep telling Jordan about. I go, I don't care what you think. This is our best song ever. And he sent me this vocal, and I was just like, all the new material is making me so excited. And we have just, it kind of sounds electroclash-ish. It's more minimalist, and it sounds like proto techno, and like it sounds really early 80s. Like it's stripped down, but of course it's going to change when we finish it. But yeah, so all this material from Radiant Believers, I just love looking at it now. I listened to the album again because I did this kind of like throwback of all the songs leading up to Godzilla, and I
Mhm.
was kind of promoting all the songs as a lead up, like all the singles. And I listened to them and I'm like, how often do I like my music afterwards more than when I first put it out? It's because of Jordan, probably, his voice on it. But usually when I release albums in the past, I'm like, I don't even, sometimes I'll hear people like DJs playing some of the old songs, and I'm like, this sounds interesting. I'm like, oh, it's me. So I don't remember me doing it, and I don't listen to my stuff ever.
Right.
Like once it's done, I don't listen to the stuff. But listening to this album just kind of like transcended now into the pantheon of it, just floating above me as one of the happiest, most best creative projects I've ever been a part of, be it film or music. It's just now in the pantheon. it transcended. And now listening back, I'm like, I like it more now than I did when I first released it. It just, every time I put it on now, when I was doing that throwback, I'm like, holy crap, these songs are so good. Like, and not because of me. Like, it's this other beast. Like, it's Jordan. Like, Jordan, like, how did he think of doing that there? And why, how did he inspire me to do this? And like, I'm not, it's hard to say it without making it sound like I'm bragging about something I created, because it's not. I'm like a fanboy of Jordan's. Whenever I listen to it, I don't even think of it as us anymore. It's a different beast that has kind of left our hands. Like when I was a kid, I remember calling things that I would create building the bird. So I would create something like a story or whatever, or a music video, and it would be building this bird, and the bird would carry me away. Like I'd fly on this bird that I created. So I was like, this thing that you create can then pick you up and lift you up somewhere. And that's where this album, I couldn't have done it on my own. Like it would have been just instrumentals. It would have sounded like Chimera. It would just maybe a little bit more bombastic. But then Jordan comes in and completely changes the game. And I don't think Jordan would have sang similar songs on something he would create either. We completely turned into a twisted mango of metal that we wouldn't have done individually, period. So now looking back on it, I'm just so ecstatic, and I'm just so happy about the next stuff that's coming up, because it makes me even more excited about the new material. The energy is even stronger now, and now we're working together in more intuitive ways. Like I just need to grunt, and Jordan be like, "Yep," and he'll know exactly, like, and he just says that is exactly it, this, that, that. Like it's so much
Well,
easier.
you've just described every truly successful songwriting partnership. And that's clearly something that both you, Stefano, and Jordan have tapped into, to where you, like you say, you each have your individual components, if you will, that you bring to the table. But when you lay all that out, and when you actually get both creative minds working in this completely different space, as it were, that's when something truly magical, something truly wonderful, something truly beautiful happens. And that's how it is for me when I listen to your music. I, quite obviously, in the job that I did with the soul of synth pop, and just what I consume on my own when I'm not in the capacity of the soul of synth pop, I listen to a lot of music every day. I mean, a plethora of music of all different kinds. And it's not very often that something makes me stop and really take notice and go, "Oh wow, that's doesn't sound like, the 23 or so other bands that I've been listening to over the last couple of days." And it's when you tap into something that is really unique, like you guys have, that it's just really, like I said earlier, we're all the richer for it, because of the creativity and that life and that color that you and Jordan put into it, is what really, for me, separates you from the rest of the field that's out there, and puts you. I mean, speaking of pantheon, you guys are up at the, towards the very top of that pantheon for me, as far as whether it's indie synth or indie music, period. Because I listen to an awful lot of stuff that is not at all in the realm of synthesizer or electronic music. But you guys, and where this became really evident for me was when you guys did the piano room version of Supernova Heart, because you can tell what really separates somebody, or an artist that's just really good with a DAW, or really good at picking out great sounds. Maybe they'll come up with a cool melody, but where you really find out what kind of a songwriter they are is when you strip away all of the synthesizers, strip away the drum machines, the samplers, all the really fancy effects and the auto tune and all that, and put together one of your songs in just that very basic raw format of just a piano and a voice, or a piano, guitar and a voice, or a guitar and a voice. That's where you can tell if if there's really a song underneath all of that technology. And for me, that's something that has always really been something pretty special to me, is when I come across an artist that can take their synth pop song and put it together in a manner like you guys did with Supernova Heart. And to me, that's what shows me. I mean, as a musician and songwriter myself, that just makes my respect and my admiration for you guys just go, soaring into the stratosphere. So for me, that's one thing that I absolutely love about what both of you do with Breathe in My Leaves, is that you approach it from that angle. And I'm not saying you should try that with all of your songs, but it's just a demonstration that what you guys did with Supernova Heart, and then to strip it down to where it's at its very most basic, where it's just that chord progression that you came up with, Stefano, that's just so beautiful, and how wonderfully it all resolves. Because that's another thing that for me, a lot of the classic songs, like we were talking earlier, like Silent Lucidity, there are so many songs that just there's that building of the tension, and then how it transitions from verse to chorus and bridge, and those transitions and how everything resolves. That's what gets me really excited about music, is when a song just really naturally flows and resolves. And I know most of our people that aren't songwriters are probably like, what the fuck is he talking about? But that's just how Jimm, the music fan, Jimm the songwriter, and Jimm the producer and musician, that's how I look at music, or that's how I listen to music, because I have to feel it. And if you don't feel the music, then then you're listening wrong. If that makes any sense. But that was just what I wanted to add, my two bits there, was that I think that you guys truly do have that special formula. And the way that you phrased it, Stefano, where it's kind of like you've created this new entity, as it were, regarding the way your creative partnership works. It's just it's exciting to see that, and to hear it, and to see you guys enjoying it so much. Because again, the ones that really benefit is people like me and May, and all of our listeners and viewers out there that are just as drawn in by your music as we are. So to that end, thank you both for that, because that's something that matters to me.
Well, that means a lot to us both, because you know what, when we it's not just us doing this, it's also when you were doing a solo of synth-pop. Of course, everyone listens religiously to that. But you'd be you would what's the word? Probably inspire a lot of bands, because I would sit there making more music, and even Jordan and I would talk about it, and we'd literally say, Jimm's gonna love this. Like, so you were actually, and then when May did her write-up of the album, we still were writing B-sides, and May was actually influencing her energy was like, I gotta live up to this. Like, her review of the album also influenced us. And Jimm, every time you would play one of our songs, you would get so emotionally ecstatic that it kind of like it fed into the creation of the album. So whenever a DJ raves about music, Jordan and I talk about it, and Jordan and I actually draw from it when we're creating the songs. Like, so it's not just nothing that, it's, you actually had input, both of you, and anyone who raves about our stuff, like, out of the people, I don't know, the small handful of people that do, but they really do influence all the stuff we did. Jordan and I talk about it, like, oh my God, wait till Jimm hears this, or wait till like Kurt hears this, or whatever. Like, we'd always be like talking about what we think people would, because I think that's part of being an artist.
Yeah.
You're doing it for yourself, but you're
Yeah.
also trying to step into other people's shoes, into their bodies, going, what are their ears gonna hear when they hear this? So sometimes I'll listen to a song and I'll go, I'm gonna pretend I'm so and so. I'm gonna pretend I'm Jordan now. And when I'm listening to the song, what is he gonna think here? And like, so I'm trying to be kind of like every person when I'm listening. If I don't please myself, it doesn't even get to that stage.
Right.
If I get goosebumps or watery eyes from a melody that I somehow crafted, that's when I start going, let me step into other people's shoes. Am I going to be the only person that feels like this? Is Jordan going to be moved by it enough to do any kind of a vocal? Or is he going to be kind of like, let's do this as a B-side later or whatever.
Right.
And sometimes he's like, Stefano, this isn't a B-side, this is an A-side. We should. There's a few times where he's been like, this needs to be on the album.
Yeah, those are tough.
He doesn't get because we come from a different thing. Jordan doesn't understand having a single and a B-side. Jordan's like, what is this B-side thing? Like, why are we having B-sides? And I'm like, I was raised to the B-side being better than the A-side often. And me wanting to get the single because it would have something fresh that wasn't on the album. And it gave us almost like a more distilled version of the band. Like, they don't have to be, because when I put out a single, we can't put out like we can't be all fancy and be like, let's challenge people on this single. I never want to do that. The single should be safe. It should be, people want to play the shit out of it to the point where they want to barf because they've listened to it so much. But the B-side is where the band is themselves, completely not caring about anything else. So that's why when I go, Jordan, like when he did the droning sound that he talks about, when I sent him this really bizarre drone spacey kind of sound with these weird kind of like chord progressions in it that didn't really, I don't know, it wasn't like this multi-layered thing. It was just 3 very simple layers of chord progressions. He turned it into this song called Star-Crossed, and he turned it into a David Bowie Radiohead, and he thought that that was probably a single worthy, and I'm like, this is an incredible song, but there's no chance in hell we like. They think, what are they thinking we're gonna do? But it's a great song.
That sounds like a magical combination, though. I mean, Bowie meets Radiohead. I mean, sign me up, man.
Yeah, he did a great job.
Those tunes though are interesting to me because I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. Ever. Like honestly, when I hear the tune, when I hear the B-sides, and Stephano, he can vouch for me on this, I would say that except for one of them, all of them were a 1 or 2 take, and that was it. Like I literally made up the words when I was singing. I don't mean to toot my own horn with that, but I was just like, okay, I don't know. We're in space. We're going to be floating around. Look at the view. And I just quickly write it down. And then I would literally send it to Stephano like an hour later and be like, edit this, change it,
right away.
Do whatever you want with it. And then he'd turn it into the song. So the B-sides for me, I was like, oh yeah, gold. Oh yeah. Forgot about that.
That one was
like,
that one was a swear. That one was the swear song.
Yeah, that was the swear song.
He sent me vocals to this one track, and he's like, dude, you're gonna love this. So I listened to it, and it was all swear words. And I'm like, this is really cool, but we can't put this in.
That's my kind
and
of
I'm like, we can't do it.
I'm a New Yorker. They're not swear words, they're sentence enhancers.
And it was very aggressive. And I'm like, I love it. I love the vocal. I love the melody. I'm just going to take out the very part that does not have swear words, and I turn it into this looping. So that turned into gold. Is that what it is? Gold? Yeah. I tried to. What does it say? I tried to fail.
I tried to fail, but everything turns into gold.
And that's kind of like what our band is, because sometimes he's very self-defeatist. Like he thinks we're failing, but all of a sudden we spin gold out of it. So I think that's where that kind of came from. But the last song we did before the album was completed was Show the World. I think the B-side to was Trepidation, which I think could be an A-side. Like that's so catchy. He did that in literally 10 minutes, and I slapped my thing together in like 10 minutes, and I think it shows how quickly we're becoming like good at working together. Oh no, sorry. The B-side to Stay. What is that called? Yeah. What was the B-side called? The latest B-side.
There's like 40 songs. I don't even know.
I know. The latest B-side released in that one was the latest thing we did, and that one was fast too.
Yeah.
Lost Valley. Lost Valley. Yeah,
Lost Valley was the. I told Stephano. I said, he's like, "What's it about?" And I'm like, "It's just about my hands being up like this, basically being like saying what the hell." And then realizing that's my view. I don't know if you've heard Lost Valley, you guys. If you did hear it, it's talking about how I only see the sun from a certain time to a certain time, because when you're digging yourself into that hole, and then we just literally 5 minutes later the song was done, and we're like, okay, I guess that's
so for me when I wrote the instrumental. Usually it's comes infused with my own ideas, which I never give to. I want Jordan to always have the lyrical thing. I don't care if he does anything with even the title. But with me, it was had a sci-fi weird like 70s when I was a childhood. Like what is it that boat that went under into Hollow Earth, or Hollow Earth is Godzilla, but what the land that time forgot
Land of the Lost.
Land that time forgot.
Land of the Lost. I don't know.
Land of the Lost works too. Yeah.
Yeah, one of those. But it was one of those 70s sci-fi things where they went into the middle of the earth and they had a boat, like a ship, and there was like dinosaurs and stuff.
Yep.
So here I'm thinking,
Or
Lost
we,
Valley
in
is that.
in 2024, we would call that the Republican National Convention. Oh, damn it! I said it again. Sorry. I promised I wouldn't go there. Well, it could be Democrats too, though, for all that matter. I mean, just to be honest.
But that's what I was thinking of, and then I started thinking, like, if I was to make a movie, I was thinking there was a district that people drive through that was just bonkers. That the universe doesn't really exist there, like laws of the universe. And so I keep thinking of sci-fi stuff, and thankfully Jordan kind of takes it in his own little tangent of whatever. But that song wrote itself in minutes, kind of thing. Like,
You guys do some fantastic B-sides and instrumentals, of course. You know, I mean, I love them all, really do.
I'm glad somebody likes them. I don't know what they're gonna be like when we finish them. As long as I think Jordan and I call each other and we're ecstatic over things, but we never know if anyone's gonna like it or even care, right? Jordan and I were like, I don't know, like we're both impressed. We're like, with ourselves, and that's all that matters. We don't know if people are gonna be loving it or hating it. As long as we kind of do right by our hearts, I think creatively, that's all we can do.
Yeah, that's the most anybody artistically, I think, can expect from you. Really, just my 2 cents here.
There's a lot of emotion on the album, to be honest. It's we could talk about that forever, but like I almost quit when we did Perfect Defeat. Like I was kind of done with my own self-image of being a singer, and that whole song is actually talking about that. I don't mean to bring that up as like some sort of point for the interview, but like people listen to that tune, and that whole song is about self-sabotage and not doing the fifth and not doing the third, like not doing the harmonies the way that I should do. And Stephano, the original version I gave him, he probably thought I was having a mental breakdown, because I literally had like very like there was like screams and like I was like, you know what I should do here? And then I panned over here. It's like, what? It's like
he's talking to himself in the song.
Like, no, in the song, like
he's cackling at himself too, like laughing like a crazy person. And I'm like, where do I put this? Like I was gonna make a bridge and have a crazy bridge where he's talking to himself and screaming. And the only thing that I took out of that is that incredible long note, that like that part, because he goes, what if I do something like this? And he sings it, and I'm like, holy shit, that's incredible. So I just took that, and that weaves into the whole final bridge and final chorus. But that's from his crazy, that line, that beautiful note is him screaming at himself, because you guys didn't hear that that's all gone. So there's a part where he's like becomes schizophrenic, and he starts screaming at himself, and he's using 2 voices, and he's yelling at himself and goes, what if I did this? La 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 la, but no, but you have to do this, and he's like kind of like questioning himself, and then he goes, well, what if I did this? And he did this beautiful melody, and I'm like, that's it, that's the melody. And he's like, so I just kind of took that out, and I'm like, I'm just gonna use this here. But the song was so perfect. I didn't want to make it like it could take this break from reality, but I think it would have taken people out of because whenever I hear that song, I'm thinking 6 minutes have passed, but it's literally one of the shortest songs on the album, and it still has 3 choruses. And every time that song ends, I'm thinking, holy crap, that's a 6-minute song. And I look, and it's like it's 3:02 or so, and I can't believe there's some sort of a time section that happens in that song that makes you think it's a long song, but it's like the shortest song on the album, I think. So if I had put that crazy bit in there, it would have probably extended it, and it would have taken people out of it.
That tune was interesting. I remember I called Stephano the day after I did the original vocal, and I said Jim's gonna like this line, and he's like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "Ding ding 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 ding."
Yeah,
That synth line there, and he's like, "What do you think about that?" I'm like, "I don't know. I think it's cool. Like, do you think it's like not like a sellout? But do you think it's too like
80s.
it's
Very,
too
very 80s.
80s or whatever?"
It's
And
the
then
final
yeah,
countdown.
That's what I called it. That's what I called it. So when Jordan sent me, because Jordan doesn't really get involved with the music, he lets me do that, even though he's the musician and the producer. But so I'm dealing with all the music. But once in a while, he'll send me like a pad. But then he sent me that because before it had this other crazy frantic part,
Mhm.
and he sent me that dun dun dun. Dun. It sounds very like early 80s like sci-fi, and it sounded like the final countdown. It had that hardcore echoing synth. It sounds like not Dune, but what's that? Tron? No, not Tron. Another
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner. It was very
Blade
Blade
Runner.
Runner.
yeah.
And I'm like, Jordan, should we do this? Like, people already think we're so 80s. This is almost taking the shit out of it. Like, this is like, are they trolling us now? Like, but Jordan like nailed it with that. Like, I'm like, I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna do it. And it really makes
I
the
loved
song.
it. I mean, I'm a sucker for synth brass anyway. I mean,
Me too.
I love the Blade Runner soundtrack, and so and I forgive me, I think that riff from the Final Countdown is one of the greatest
It
synthesizer riffs of all time.
is.
Love the song or hate it, but it's just So
Yep.
of course, Jordan was right. I was going to love it instantly.
Yeah. He said your name. Yeah, right on. He said Jensen. I love it.
Guilty.
So he's already like, you've been like building the album before you even knew it. So
Yep.
Good stuff.
yeah.
So let's have a little bit of fun here. Let's just real quickly we'll go around the room here, and we'll start off with the subject of let's see, favorite rock songs. Give me your top three favorite classic rock songs of all time, starting with you, May.
Oh my gosh, why'd you do that to me? Now I have to think.
I
Oh my
was like,
gosh.
don't pick me.
Um,
You've got no
uh,
more than 30 seconds to answer.
oh
Oh
my
my
goodness.
God.
Queen's I Want to Break Free is the first one that pops into my head. Oh, classic rocks. There's gonna be ELO. And now I can't think of which one it is.
Don't say
Mr. Blue
mine.
Sky.
Excellent choice.
And then Cream. My husband and I were talking about this the other day, and he only knew like one song by them, and I'm like, anyone for tennis? And he's like, what? That's a song by Cream, and it's one of my favorite ones because it's just quirky.
Fantastic. Stefano.
Oh my God. Because music is like my life. So I have a billion songs in my head. So if I was to pluck ELO, Don't Bring Me Down is definitely, of course. I would have to say something by Foreigner. And I would have to say, oh my God, this is so difficult. Because my brother is a classic rock guy. So I was kind of raised to his Nazareth, Shanghai and Shanghai.
Nice. Excellent.
Love
Jordan.
Put me on the spot, and I'm the one that listens to all this.
I know. You better pick good ones, Jordan.
Yeah,
This is your album.
Pink by Aerosmith. One of my favorite songs. I don't know why. That song is just so good. Classic rock. I love War Pigs, Ozzy. I love
Yes.
that song.
Yes. I'm a big Black Sabbath fan. Love Sabbath.
Okay. Yeah.
He sent me that last month so we can cover it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
A really cool
Nice.
kind of an ethereal, like,
We always throw each other songs.
and masses, da, na, 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 and with like this really cool synth on it. We might do that. And my third one, man,
Nirvana.
no, not Nirvana. I don't, for classic rock, Layla.
Derek and the Dominoes. Very nice. Very nice. Classic. Scorsese uses it, I think, in almost every film he does.
What song is that? Can you like? Sorry, I'm not a classic rock guy as much as. Can you sing like a bit of it so I know? It sounds like it's a very well-known thing.
Oh, I'm supposed to sing it?
Yeah.
The singer.
Don't
singer.
yeah, don't ask me to sing it. Yeah.
Well, you know the riff. The
Oh my God. Okay. Oh God. That's
Layla,
oh,
got me on my knees, Layla.
Jim, can you cut this part of the interview
He's
out?
my floating
Are you kidding? This is what people are tuning in
I
for.
know. I'm gonna offend so many people for not knowing what that was.
Oh, they've already, I'm sure they checked out well, probably when we started talking about my remix. But my three favorite classic rock tunes in no particular order. Comfortably Numb by the Pink Floyd, because I think David Gilmour he's my absolute favorite guitar player of all time.
Genius, yeah.
I got to go with Hotel California.
Oh, nice.
It's just a classic. I'm a big Eagles fan.
Yep.
And for my third one would be a toss-up between something like Back in Black by AC/DC, or maybe Black Water by the Doobie Brothers. There we go. I love the harmonies in that song. You know, roll black water, keep on rolling. By the hand, take me by the hand, pretty mama. Yep, sorry. Oh, there we go. Okay, so there's our classic rock. Now let's turn it to our genre, Stephano. And we'll start with you.
Oh no.
Okay. Name three of your all-time favorite synth pop songs.
Oh my God.
And you can make them all erasure if you want to.
See if I'm gonna gravitate towards all erasure, but I think I have to cut them out. My favorite pop song that I think will ever be written for all of time in the universe, however long it lasts, is Always by Erasure. So I'll get that.
Beautiful song.
It's the greatest pop song ever written, I think. So now that that's out of the way, oh my God, Forever Live and Die, OMD. Probably I want to say Human League's Don't You Want Me Baby, but I won't. I'm gonna say probably something by Dead or Alive, like Brand New Lover or You Spin Me, or Big Daddy the Rhythm. I don't know. Like I love Dead or Alive. It was all over my album, like Radiant Believers, like all over the music part of it is Dead or Alive.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'm sure there are other ones like Depeche Mode's Halo, stuff like that. But.
Cool. And Jordan, I'm gonna put you on the spot. I see you squirming over there.
I'm so
He was Googling.
Yeah, I'm like Googling what are the top 40 songs.
You better pick an Erasure song.
Well, yeah, I will pick an Erasure song. I don't know what the actual title is. Is it When I Want to Break It All Down? Is that the actual title?
When I start to break it all down. Love that.
That tune is so good. And there's two very different versions that they have of that. Like that tune for me is amazing. That song Japan, I forget what the band was again.
Big in Japan?
Yeah, it was like the Alphaville, Big in Japan, or the band Japan.
Something Life, Quiet Life, something like that.
It's a Beautiful Life.
Quiet Life. Yeah.
Yeah, I forget the title on that one, and if I had to pick a third for our genre, Faith.
Do you like
Faith? I'd say Faith for sure.
Oh,
cool.
George Michael.
You like that other one too? Remember that I Promised Myself? Who was saying that again? That he died, a young guy. He had one hit. Nick.
Oh yeah.
Remember? We're looking at covering. Yeah.
Yeah, he had the great dance video the whole time.
And it samples A Little Respect in it. Jim, you know, sorry, I'm just gonna quickly Google.
Wasn't he like playing like the guitar or something in the video?
Yeah. So, you guys, it's a very tragic it's a very tragic story because he had this huge hit, went #1. Nick Cayman, I Promised
Yeah.
Myself.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Such a good song.
Very good.
Great tune.
All right, May, your turn.
First of all, I think when I was saying something about Quiet Life for Jordan, I think I was actually thinking of like Oingo Boingo's song about something like that. Anyways, definitely Jim knows my favorite OMD song is Stay off Pacific Age. And my favorite Erasure song, Drama. Gosh, I
Oh,
love that
Yep.
so
song.
good.
And then after that, I cannot leave out Anything Box's Answer Me. And so that's off the Hope album. And most everyone knows Living in Oblivion and Carmen, and that's just
Of course.
two everyone's always asking about. But Answer Me is one of my favorite synth pop songs.
Nice.
Right on. Well, for me, obviously, OMD holds a very
We love
special
you.
place in my heart. um, and while Forever Live and Die is absolutely one of my top 3 favorite OMD songs of all time, um, I think my absolute favorite, not just by OMD, but probably my favorite synth pop song right now that I just keep going back to is "Don't Go" by OMD.
Hmm.
I think it is my favorite
So
OMD
good.
song, and it reminds me. And I think the reason is because it reminds me of my mom and dad.
Mm.
And the music video, the first time I saw the music video, I was actually watching it with my mom and dad, and um, like myself, my mom and dad both knew Paul Humphreys fairly well, particularly my mom. And so to see my mom and dad watching the video to "Don't Go" with me, we all 3 of us had tears in our eyes by the end of the video. And so for that reason, and also because I think it's one of the best songs, if not the best song that OMD have ever composed. So that's my favorite. That's my #1. #2, like you say, May, I'd have to go with Anything Box, Jubilation. That
Awesome.
song inspired me so many times and literally saved my life through some of the most difficult times I've ever faced in my life. So to be able to sing that song with to pair up with Darwin McD when we did the Anything Box tribute album. um, I mean, you talked earlier, Stefano, about Jordan, how he had the lung infection when he recorded his vocals for one of the songs. Well, when I recorded the vocal for Jubilation for the Anything Box tribute, I was still going through my first bout with COVID, and I
Oh.
had like 102-degree fever when I recorded the vocals, and it ends up being like one of the best vocal takes I've ever done. So, but that notwithstanding, Anything Box's original version of Jubilation would be one of my choices. And my third one, gosh, there are so many songs that I love by, classic Depeche Mode. I think Depeche Mode have lost their way a long time ago. But
Sadly.
yeah, I would say probably Depeche Mode's "The Sun and the Rainfall," just to
Oh,
kind of balance it out, because the first two are kind of more upbeat, whereas the "Sun and the Rainfall" is more of a typical Depeche Mode. So those would be my 3. Just really,
nice.
really love those ones. So let's stay in this, and let's just make this a little quicker here. We'll start with Jordan. Your top 3 favorite albums of all time, regardless of genre.
Man,
This is so hard.
should have prepped me before we got on the call.
Next, we're going to talk about food.
Yeah,
Oh.
exactly. We can do food. That's fine. I'm probably more familiar with food. Um, Top 3 albums of all time.
If you were on a desert island, what are 3 albums you would absolutely have to take with you?
I would have Frog Stomp Silverchair. I would have Just Push Play by Aerosmith. Only 3 albums for the rest of my life, man. As weird as it sounds, I would probably have oh man. Sorry, I don't mean to hold it up on the call here, but
Jim really pulled one on us, eh, Jordan?
Yeah, that's
That's okay. You're giving me more time to think.
sneaky
You
fucker.
know,
Damn it. It's supposed to be easy.
it's tough.
It's
I don't know.
painful
I
because
don't,
you
I
don't
don't know
want to.
which one. I don't know which one, but an AC/DC album for sure. I'm not sure which one though, but maybe their
AC/DC?
greatest hits. AC/DC, I'd have that for sure.
All right, Stefano.
God. Of course, I want to say all Erasure albums also, but I think Chorus is my favorite album of all time by Erasure. But I mean, really, if I was going to choose my three favorites, they're all Erasure. So it'd be like, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to put one there. But moving Erasure out of the top of the two and three positions, I would put probably there's a Canadian artist that I really, when I was growing up, I was obsessed with named Gowan, and I would probably choose Great Dirty World by Gowan, maybe is one of them, and it had a song on it called Moonlight Desires that pretty much every Canadian knows. But anyways, I would probably choose that as a childhood. God, I'm an albums guy. Albums are in my blood, so to choose one is like selecting my favorite blood cell. I mean, Goldfrapp, Supernature.
Another good one.
That's a great one.
All right.
Mine sucked. You gotta ask me.
I feel like I missed the best. Like I don't even. Yeah, it was a tough one. This was supposed to be easy, Jim. This is anguishing.
May, your turn.
Okay. Crowded House's Temple of Low Men.
Great album.
Gotta cheat with the Best of OMD because that was, that was a really good one. And then a more current one, actually, to me, 2015, Frank Turner's Positive Songs for Negative People. And Frank Turner is probably one of the best acts, performers on stage I've ever seen. When Jordan was talking about, people, can you live up to that? Oh my gosh, I will travel far to go see a Frank Turner show because he puts on a phenomenal stage show.
Right on. For me, number one, Depeche Mode's Black Celebration. That's the album that changed my life. I literally cannot imagine my life without that album. Number two, and Stefano, I know you're going to recoil in absolute horror over this one. The Cure's Disintegration. Love that album.
Great album.
Love Disintegration. And then probably my third Desert Island album. Let's see. Should I piss everybody off and pick a polka album? No. Let's see. For my third album, I'll probably go. Probably. Enigma. MCMXCAD. The first Enigma album. I'm a huge Enigma fan. Love it, love it, love it. So
that was magic, that stuff, bro. Remember Hooked on Classics?
Right, right. So I have to ask, Jordan and Stefano, do you guys like tacos?
One of my favorite things on the planet. Absolutely.
So much.
Unless this is a trick question.
Nope. No trick question.
So I love obviously soft tacos. The only thing I don't love about them is whenever I go to eat Mexican food, because Vancouver doesn't really have like you have to go to certain destinations to have your good Mexican food in Vancouver. We have sushi and stuff like that, right? So for Mexican food, I'm always ashamed that when I can fit so many tacos in my body, and I weigh 140 pounds. So, when you order tacos, you want to order like 12.
Right?
But I'll have 3. And I'm like, how do you have 3 tacos?
If there's less than 4 tacos on my plate, I'm starting a riot.
Right? And it has to have cilantro because I want some food with my cilantro. If there's no cilantro,
thank you. Jordan,
do
you like cilantro, Jordan? Come on. This is the true test.
100%. So yeah, tacos. So my favorite for fish taco, but here's a question in terms of tacos: the soft or hard shell?
Soft.
Got to go soft shell. I like them both, but I prefer the good old
I'll
fashioned
eat the.
sweet
I
taco.
actually buy those spindles of soft shells and I'll eat them like just on their own. Like I
Mm.
love that corn stuff.
Good. So we're
It
all on the
smells
same
like
page.
flowers.
I cannot stand a hard taco shell. Like
Yeah.
you can't even eat it properly.
I don't think is that a really a thing though? Those were like the 70s, kind of like to ship them.
That's like the
Yeah, I think
Americanized
that's an
taco.
American, that's
Oh,
American. I
okay.
mean, we can, Resident Brown Girl is just watching and listening to you guys. So I'm just like,
Yeah, you're from
oh my
Texas.
gosh,
The
I gotta
brown
get you
girl
guys,
from Texas watching the
Yeah.
three white guys go crazy over Latino
I
food.
gotta
There
get
we
you
go.
guys down here to San Antonio. We'll eat
That's
that.
Yes.
exactly.
Oh my God.
But yeah, that's an Americanized
Everyone listening
thing.
too, it's I'm in Alberta, so it's probably the least Mexicanized.
But it's the most Texas you can get in Canada, though.
Love it.
But you know what though? So the taco thing, I was gonna say one thing about it. What was it? It's gotta have this. Oh, I'm sorry. I totally lost my train of thought on that. But I love tacos. Like I
May,
love
tell us about this wonderful new thing called birria
Oh,
tacos.
birria.
Yeah, explain.
Oh.
Tell Jordan and Stefano what
What is it called?
birria tacos are.
Birria,
Basil.
birria. So birria is traditionally actually birria is goat, but mostly you'll find beef, and it's a tougher cut of meat that has just been stewing and stewing, the low and slow, and so it's very tender. And oh my gosh, there's one little restaurant that I go to that their flavor, I crave that. And I had somebody else's birria tacos last night at another place. And it was okay, it was good, but like it didn't have that zing. But so it's stewed all day. So then you have the broth, and they call it consommé. Coming from culinary school, that's
Yeah.
not technically a consommé, but
Right.
it's the broth. And so you get these tacos, and they also do these like these quesadilla type thing, where they put it on a flat top and fry it so it's all stuck together, and then you like dip it in the consomme, and then of course there's cilantro, cilantro and onions and
Yep.
and yeah, lime juice, and oh gosh, I'm hungry again.
It's like a French dip taco. I mean,
So yeah,
what a great creation, right?
you guys will be shocked, but I have had that. They do serve the birria here in some
wow.
places. So,
Nice.
Wow.
but I'm a bigger fan of sopes. You know the big
Oh,
flat
yes.
corn thing with the
Yeah.
top on the top.
So
Like,
so
I like the
those are
doughy.
sopapillas. People call them
Sopapillas.
sopas for short,
Yeah.
but if you go into a
Sopas.
Mexican restaurant and you ask for sopas, that's soup.
Soup.
That's right. Yeah,
So
yeah,
they look at you funny. They're like,
yeah.
but I have a friend who called them sopas, and I'm like, ah.
Yeah, it's not
But-
correct. Yeah, that's right. Because I asked that in some places, and they're like soup. I'm like, no, that thick one. And they're like, oh, and they always correct me. But that's my favorite because I like doughy things.
Mhm.
It's more substantial. But I can have like a billion of those. And they come in like an oval, a weird flat oval.
Yeah, little.
The edging. Yeah. And I love
Yeah.
mole sauce a lot. I'm a huge mole. I love that cocoa and sauce.
Mhm.
Oh,
Now, the only thing that I absolutely cannot stand, in fact, what will ruin any dish for me is guacamole. I hate,
oh no.
detest
Doesn't like 'em.
Really?
avocado. I
He doesn't like
detest
avocados.
avocado.
I
I hate it,
love
hate it,
it.
hate it, hate it.
Yeah.
I
Can't
used to
stand
detest it as a kid, but oh my God, now I love it.
Yeah.
It tastes like egg, but it's good.
Glad that it tastes like that for you.
You're pretty far north, so I'm going to assume your avocados are probably not like the avocados I get here, because they are,
Exactly.
ready. I mean, the term for avocados is was it manteca de pobre, which is poor man's butter.
Oh, I love them.
And so yeah, I mean, because I remember talking to somebody who lived up there in Canadian land, and he was like, yeah, we can get like these rock hard things, or like these frozen.
Oh no, they probably not, like I live in a major center, so we get them straight from Mexico.
I was about to say,
You got the good-
you've got a
you got
port
the good
city over
shit.
there, so they'll just be chugging those avocados up there in the Pacific, and
I mean, they can't, I don't like it when it's not ripe, obviously. I can see somebody, because when I was a kid, and I was raised up in northern BC, a town called Kitimat, BC. That's where I was born and raised. It's close to Alaska, the Alaskan Panhandle. We didn't know what avocados were when they came into the town. My dad and I were fruit fanatics usually, and we thought it was a fruit, and we tried eating it raw, and it's vulgar. It was hard and waxy, and we didn't know that it's supposed to be soft, and it was more of a it's not a fruit, it's more of a savory thing, but I can eat it in bread. Like, oh, it's-
No,
I buy them 'cause
botanically,
they're
it's
like
a
they're
fruit.
almost $8 a piece where I live. So
Oh my gosh.
Really?
yeah.
Oh,
So I have to talk now about some of two of my favorite Canadian foods. Number
Okay.
one, you're gonna think this is nuts. I love ketchup chips.
they're
Yep.
great.
Old Dutch ketchup chips, or what's the other one? Fully dressed or all
All
dressed?
dressed.
All
All
Oh
dressed.
my gosh. And we think that we got a good thing going down here with Lay's. I'm sorry, Lay's ain't got nothing on
Yeah, the
on
ketchup chips are pretty.
those ketchup and all dressed chips. And the other thing, excuse me. Ah,
Just
I
thinking of
have to,
guacamole.
right, exactly. So the other thing is poutine. So
Of course.
for those who aren't familiar with that uniquely Canadian cuisine, what exactly is poutine? And do you guys like it on your French fries?
Yeah,
Obsessed with it. I mean, I don't have it often because it's a Quebec. It's more of a Quebec thing. So they don't serve it everywhere here, but it's basically fries with gravy and cheese curd, squeaky cheese curd on top, and the gravy, and they kind of melt and they kind of get squeezy, like they kind of squelch in your teeth, and the gravy is rich and it melts with the fries. I'm drooling. The fries are like, they're almost like double fried fries because they can't become soggy, so they'll
Right,
fry the
right.
and they'll double, so they have that almost that see-through, oily, kind of brownish texture. So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a
really
Quebec.
the really good ones are when they're done in duck fat or they're done
Oh
in
my God, yeah.
Oh,
Goose
that's
fat.
so
beef
rich.
tallow.
Yeah.
And then
Oh gosh, I can imagine how good
Yeah.
they
Oh,
are
good.
goose fat.
But you know what else is good for chips is, other than ketchup chips, when I was a kid and I would eat a lot of kind of junk food stuff. I don't really eat those anymore, but the ketchup chips, and I would also have to have a bag of sour cream and onion
Oh yeah.
chips. And this is a sweeter kind of, oh, so good. I'm a garlic fiend though, so everything that I like has to have a lot of garlic.
So do you guys do either of the three of you like salt and vinegar chips?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's one of my go-tos as well.
I don't think you can make a bad potato, and you can dip it in anything and it's going to be good.
This is true.
Potato, any way you create potatoes, mashed, scalloped, or fried, baked,
That's where vodka comes from, right?
that too.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
covering all the bases today: food, culinary, music. Man,
Oh heck yeah. Right on.
I love food.
Awesome. Well, to wrap up here, just tell us what is on the horizon for Breathe of My Leaves. What interesting tidbits, if any, can you share with us?
Other things we can share.
I'll leave that to Stephano so I don't
I'm
accidentally
trying to block out his voice in case he accidentally. I think we were working on kind of two projects before the next album, of which we have about 7 songs. But the two projects before that are also secret, kind of fun things. New music, obviously, but yeah, I'm just kind of torn because I come from a time when you would release an album and I would live. The album was my world. But now, like when we released Radiant Believers, we did it kind of in a weird. We didn't do it on purpose, but we released 6 singles before it, and then we had to release singles during it to keep interest going. But I mean, usually when you have an album, you release like a single or two before it and you put it out. But the problem with the algorithm and the way things are nowadays is once you put out the Radiant Believers, it's 13 tracks. And those 13 tracks become singles. You just released a blurb of singles, and people listen to them and they're sick of them in 2.5 weeks, and you're done. So with me, I'm kind of like, I've had like endless conversations with Jordan about this because he never really understood why we were doing a full album. He thought why don't we just keep releasing singles or EPs and stuff? And I think that might be the key, is to release. So I'm thinking maybe 4 quad EPs where it's 4 singles, and then maybe do an acoustic version as the 5th single of the first single from the next EP that's coming, to kind of foreshadow what's coming. And I think Robin did something similar. So I'm kind of wondering to keep things interesting, maybe do like four track or 5 track EPs in a row and then do like a greatest hits or something where you kind of put everything together from all the other albums. But that's kind of what I don't know if I want to do a full album. All I know is I want us to complete all the songs first before we start triggering and releasing things. But I'm not convinced if it's going to be a full album or if it's going to be in pieces. I'm going to ask fans and what DJs think, what's better, what works better for all the DJs and for fans listening pleasure. Like I know people want an album, but really the Radiant Believers came out and thankfully we had Interest of Perfect Defeat. Trepidation obviously kicked it off, and that is still going strong. But Perfect Defeat, and then we had like Matt Pop do that incredible Clark and Bell rehash.
He's brilliant. Absolutely.
He's brilliant.
Yeah, he's like the new Vince
He gave
Clarke.
the album a second life, basically, and then we had Stay Single, and that was a ballad, so it's kind of tough. But that still did well, and now Godzilla. But like, how many singles we can? For a joke, I was telling Jordan we should just release all the singles. We should do like You're My Light next, and then do Megalife, and like just do like Rainbow Bridge. I don't know, like I'm tired of these, but like I don't know what to do. I don't know if we should do another album. I don't know what Jordan thinks. We keep going back and forth on it, EPs or albums, but we have.
I think yeah, I think the one thing that I'll say on it is the new material that we're working on. And I mean this in all truth, Stephano has gotten so much better through this whole thing in terms of his composition of the song. So the stuff that he's sending me now is not these very simple, like synth line with a kick drum, and then I build on top of it. It's complex. And he's putting bass lines in there and everything. So the new stuff that's going to come out is going to be very, 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 I don't know what the right word would be. Like, it's gonna kick. It's gonna be interesting, and it's gonna be more aggressive on some of the tunes as well. It'll be a lot more aggressive.
Fantastic.
It's just gonna be
some big ballad stuff as well, like some very
there's be more peaks and valleys. But I think it's the number one thing is this is going to be melodic though. No matter what, it's always melody is king, and I think we've gotten better at melody. So no matter what happens, the melody is king all the time.
Fantastic. Well, I'm excited to hear what you guys have in the pipeline that you're working on, and you can guarantee that I'm going to be cheering you guys along from the sidelines all the way through. So
appreciate it.
Thank you both, Jordan and Stephano, for joining us tonight. This has been such a wonderful conversation, very insightful into the way that the inner workings of Breathe of My Leaves works, and how your partnership works, and how all that coalesces into this just absolutely beautiful music that I it does so much to lift me up and make me feel alive again. And that's what I look for in music, is I like to listen to something that doesn't just necessarily move me like, oh, that's nice, but I love it when something just pierces me right to my core and just makes me feel alive. And that's something that your music has always done for me ever since I first heard Love You Lately, however many years ago. Just I fell in love with that brand, if you will, as soon as I heard that. And
you were one of the first champions of that song.
Well, and Adam Collier's remix of Love You Lately is just
so good.
I think one of the best remixes of modern synth pop that I've ever heard. I mean, he just made that. It sounds like Vince himself could have done something like that. And I don't know if Adam's much of an Erasure fan, but he just absolutely knocked that one out of the proverbial park. So if folks, if you want to find the music of Breathe of My Leaves, you can go to their Bandcamp page, which is breatheofmyleaves.bandcamp.com. They've got the brand new single Godzilla that just came out a couple of days ago, and that there we go. There's the Lizard of Honor, I guess we would say.
Stefano has to speak. You have to speak so that you'll highlight.
What's that?
There you go.
Oh, can you see it?
Now we can.
There we go.
Right on. You kind of just snuck in like this. So my favorite thing.
There are some great remixes on this Godzilla release, especially from Zinc Mind and from Darwin McD, Res Filter, Astro Child or Astro Boy?
Astro
Child.
Child.
Astro Child. Got it right the first time. How about that?
Yeah.
And then this Secret Space
Space
something or
program.
other. And so 6 very unique mixes, and of course the single mix. You guys did a new version for the single mix that I think is it outshines the version on the album as well, which is not an easy thing to do because that album, The Radiant Believers, is just brilliant. But you can find The Radiant Believers and everything that Jordan and Stephano have been working on at that Bandcamp page. Again, breatheofmyleaves.bandcamp.com, and anywhere else that you find fantastic music. Apple Music, iTunes, Amazon, you name it. If they sell fantastic music, then they should have Breathe of My Leaves. And if they don't, then you send them my way and I'll give them the business. I'll give them the ugly side of Brooklyn. But Jordan and Stephano, thank you so much. Mae, any closing remarks or thoughts from you?
I've just been very fascinated to hear about this wonderfully symbiotic relationship that you guys have, and the way you work with each other and bounce off of each other and you know, hold each other up. And I think that's really great because yeah, for you, Stephano, to feel that, oh, this isn't really good, this is terrible, but then for Jordan to come in with his, and that it's reaffirming. It's definitely reaffirming to have a partner who is, you know, reinforcing that what you're doing is really great. Believe me, it is. And again, the joy, the dark and light that I feel from the Radiant Believers, and especially from Supernova Heart. I'm not a crier, but the first time I actually listened when I was listening critically, because Jim had already been playing it for a year on his show. But the first time I listened critically to that song, I burst into tears, and it took me a while to regulate my, you know, my heartbeat and everything after hearing it. And so absolutely gorgeous. So I think more people need to be paying attention to you guys. It's amazing. You need to capitalize on the bedroom pop tag genre, because after saying $300 you're in your basement, that's pretty much what that is. I mean, there's one more hashtag you could be using. So
yeah, now all we have to do is meet each other.
I know, we still haven't met in person. Like, this is like how many years? 15 or something. We live in different cities and we've not met each other.
Okay, that settles it. All 4 of us got to go to LA to hang out with Darren.
Yes,
and
please.
all 4 of us, we're gonna have to book one day where we cook dinner, and we all pick a dish. And for me, obviously, it's gonna have to be something Italian, because I'm a fairly decent Italian cook, if I might say.
Good.
But Stefano, I know that you love to cook, and Jordan, I don't know if you know how to cook, but just whip some kind of shit up in the kitchen, and I'm sure we're gonna love it. And Mae, I'm sure you are a fantastic cook as well. So let's do this, man. Let's make this happen. Darren, put us all. You know, we're gonna put you on notice, Darren. We're gonna come invade you.
I always see Darren like hosting things too. I always see Darren hosting stuff at his house, like in other musicians, and I'm always like envious that we're not there.
Right? Yeah.
Hey, you know, I don't know why he does that. It's like somebody special shows up or something.
You were there, weren't you?
That's why
I remember that.
Well, you guys would be special enough for that kind of a gathering. I'm not special at all. I just fly in under the radar.
Right.
I'd be the reason why people wouldn't come to Darren's house.
Oh, so, come on.
You know, wear that as a badge of honor.
No, it's not true.
All righty. Well, Jordan and Stefano, any closing thoughts or any remarks you want to make before we wrap up here?
No,
I just want to thank everyone. We had such a great run.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm blown away by the response to the album and to the singles. And Jordan and I are always like humbly, like, you know, like when people say, I'm humbled by this, we literally are shocked by the response to the songs. And we're just so grateful, you know, like I wasn't expecting this ever in my life. And Jordan and I both, like, Jordan is a musical animal. I think he lives for this also, because as a musician. And for, it's as artists, this kind of response is you just can't put it into words. So I'm so grateful that people liked the album and the songs. I'm speechless.
Right on. Jordan.
Man, I don't know. First and foremost, your support for the last, well, 15, 16 years, which is crazy to think about that it was that long ago that the first one came out. But yeah, I'm just very humbled by the support too. I'm very humbled when I get these random messages from people that I don't know that say something like, "Hey, love the drums in this section," or something. I'm like, cool, go tell Stephano that because I didn't make them. So I love when people kind of give their comments on it. And I'm excited for the next stuff that we're gonna do because we have to top, well, we don't have to top it, but we have to compete with what we did. And I think that we're gonna just keep it very, very simple. I don't think our next stuff is gonna be, major studio type production. We're just gonna do what we do best, which is fake it till we make it. And yeah, just very honored with the support, and especially from you too, Jim. Thank you so much for your support. This last year has been amazing.
Happy to do so. Thank you for truly making my life such a wonderful thing to have your music, not just on my show, but to listen to on my own. A lot of my detractors have accused me of, just simply talking out of my ass kind of thing, which, I have to say, I probably do sometimes because that's part of being a New Yorker. We like to talk a lot. I'm very loquacious and verbose. Just ask May about the podcast, my Soul of the Unexplained, how much I like to talk on that. But I
I've
genuinely,
watched it.
the
I've
thing that
watched
people don't understand about my connection with music and synth pop in general, I go back to my comment that I made about I love music that makes me feel alive, and I gravitate towards the artists that have that impact on on me. Is not just that the music moves me, but if it really, truly pierces me to the core. And very few artists, indie or otherwise, do that as effectively or as frequently as the music that I've been able to listen to that both you, Stefano, and you, Jordan, have done together as Breathe in My Leaves. So it's my way of saying it's very sincere. All the things and all the compliments and the immense gratitude that I have for both of you for sharing your talents with me and with my audience and with everybody that's out there that has an ear for good music and appreciates good music, be it synth pop or otherwise. And I think you guys are, like I said, toward the top of the pantheon of where those the best of the best artists I think reside, and that's certainly where I place Breathe in My Leaves, and I know I'm not alone in
Thank you.
in thinking that. So, thank you again so much, gentlemen, for joining May and I on this little escapade. Thank you for speaking to us and sharing that insight into to what makes you guys tick creatively, and we're so appreciative, and we can't wait to have you back when you got something else coming up on the horizon. And again, folks, Godzilla is the brand new single, and the brand new EP just dropped just this past Friday. So add that to your collection as soon as you can. And also, if you haven't picked up the Radiant Believers, that's another one that you need to add to your music library as quickly as you can as well. And so with that, I would like to wish both of you a very, very happy remainder of your Sunday. Just be awesome. And as I always say at the end of my radio broadcast, love one another, take care of one another, be nice to bunnies, and never let a drum machine, vocoder, or synthesizer go unwanted or unloved. Adopt one today. And folks, just be awesome to each other. Don't let the ugliness and negativity and all the horrible things that are going on around the world and in our own country here in the United States, don't let those things drag you down. Don't buy into the tribalism and the people that want to divide us and break us up into different sectors of trains of thought and schools of belief. We're all human beings, and if we can't recognize that most basic fact and that we are all worthy of love and appreciation. And when the time comes, forgiveness. Those are things that we never want to lose sight of. So, with that, folks, thank you for listening to my bullshit once again. Thank you, Mae, once again for joining us. You are awesome. Thank you so much for being the best co-host ever. And again, tip of the hat to both you, Jordan, and to you, Stephano. And folks, if you like what you saw or heard here, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button down there somewhere and the notification bell so that you can be notified every time Mae and I have one of these new Spotlight series to share with you. We've got another exciting one coming up in about a week or so. We should be getting Mr. Martin Bailey. That's right, another guy whose voice, just like Jordan, who I absolutely love, the voice of an angel, Mr. Martin Bailey. So stay tuned for that, folks. We'll have that in about a week or so. And until then, just be awesome, and I will see you folks next time. See ya.